Hello, friends, and welcome to today's Read Aloud. I have our two favorite storybook characters with us. I have Gerald the elephant and Piggy the pig. And today in this story, I also have another prop. And so a prop is something that helps me tell a story. And today I have some envelopes and some cards. So on this card, oops, it's a little hard to see because of the glare. What's on this card? I see a chicken. And on this card, I see lots of chickens. And then this one, this looks a little bit like eyelet that I have as a bed ruffle. And this one, this might be my very favorite card. It is a butterfly. And it has paper cut out kind of like when we did snowflakes. Let's see, this one looks pretty fancy. And these ones are really bright and colorful. I see one that is pink, like Piggy, and I'm going to open it up. So this is the card. And right now there isn't anything inside of it, but we've practiced writing some letters in our class, and I'm wondering what kind of letter you think might go inside this card. And then, before this card can go anywhere, it needs to be put inside of an envelope. So this is an envelope. What happens is you open up the flap, just like this, and then after you write in your card, you can put your card inside of the envelope, tuck it in, and then lick it with your tongue, or because of the coronavirus, you might want to get some tap water and do it with your index finger, and then you seal up your card. Now on the front of your envelope, what you do is you write your name and where you live up here, and then in this part, this is the part where you say who you're sending it to. So if I was writing a card to my friend Piggy, I would write my name here. I'd write Miss Firestone, and I would say where I live, and then I'd write Piggy the pig, and I would say where she lives, so that the mail carriers would make sure to take it to Piggy's address. And so an address is a way of saying where you live. And then in a very important part, before the post office will mail your letter, you need to make it so there is a stamp. So these are some stamps that I bought a long time ago, and they're called farmers market stamps. So stamps are made by the post office, and they have different designs. And one of the things that I like to do, and some other people like to do, is actually collect the stamps because there are lots of different designs. So that means there's different pictures on them. So I think my friend Piggy might like the sunflower stamp. So I am going to put the sunflower stamp in the upper right-hand corner of my envelope. And that way, people in the post office would deliver this card. Now, I would need to write the addresses, just like I was letting you know, but now that it has the stamp, they will mail it anywhere in the United States, which is pretty cool. So in this story that we're going to read today, Piggy receives a letter in a pink envelope. And I'm wondering, and I want you to make a prediction, what kind of letter do you think that Piggy got? So here is Piggy with her pink envelope, and the title of this story is I Am Invited to a Party. And we can tell that Piggy is in the green zone. She is smiling, her body is big, her body language looks like she's happy. And Gerald, is he with her right now? Not really. He can see her, but he doesn't know what she's doing. He looks like a little confused, like what's going on? So on our inside cover today, we have lots and lots and lots of envelopes. And an envelope, just like I told you, is something that you would use to mail a card or a letter. And so these envelopes, this is the back of the envelope where you lick it to seal the envelope so it stays shut. And this is the front of the envelope, and I wonder if you can see. It's kind of a little tricky, but it's addressed to Piggy. Piggy. So whoever is getting this card, it must be Piggy, and that's why she's the one who's holding the envelope. All right. I want to pause and show you this picture. Where is Piggy sitting? Do you know what this is? It's in one of our short book stories. She's sitting on a mailbox, and she says out loud, and we know she's excited because there's an exclamation mark at the end. She says, "I am invited to a party." Ah, pretty cool. So Gerald is sitting by himself like he was in the last book we read, and Piggy comes running to him and she says, "Gerald! Gerald!" And she says one of our sight words that you all know. She says, "Look! Look! I am invited to a party." And Gerald, he feels happy for her. He's starting to smile, and Piggy is showing him do you remember what our new word is? She's showing him the envelope so that he can see the card that she got in the mail. And now they're opening it up. So they ripped off the back part, the seal, where the person who sent it stuck it shut. And they're opening it so they can see it. And Gerald says, "Cool." And Piggy says it is cool. She's feeling in the green zone. She's really excited about this party. And one of the things that I am wondering about right now, I'm making some predictions. Oops. All of my cards are buried beneath my other cards. Okay, so I would like you to make a prediction of what kind of a party it might be. So in our classroom, we've had lots of different parties for Fabulous Friday. We were going to have a St. Patrick's Day party in March, but that didn't happen because we weren't in school. But we have had a Valentine's Day party. We've had a Halloween party. We've had a party for green eggs and ham for Dr. Seuss's birthday. So there's lots of different parties that you could be invited to. And the question that I am wondering about is, what kind of a party is Piggy invited to? Let's read and find out. Okay. So she says it is cool. And then she has a question for Gerald. She says, "Will you go with me?" She says, "I have never been to a party." So unlike us, in our classroom, we've had lots of parties, but Piggy is feeling a little bit anxious and worried. You can tell because her eyes are really big. She's never gone, and so sometimes when you've never done something before, it's a little bit scary. And so she's asking her friend for help. And sometimes I really like help when I'm feeling anxious and I'm going to a place I haven't been before. Let's see what Gerald says. He says, "I will go with you. I know parties." So he's telling his friend that she doesn't need to worry because he will be there with her. And so Piggy, can you tell from her expression how she's feeling? She's smiling, her eyes are kind of crinkled up. It looks like she's feeling very good to know that Gerald will be with her. And now they're celebrating. He says, "Party!" She says, "Party! Party! Party!" So they're dancing around, they are celebrating, they're getting their wiggles out, having a great time. But then Gerald says, "Wait! What if it is a fancy party?" He doesn't want to be underdressed for the occasion. So I want to pause and clarify. Do you know what the word fancy means? So right now, Miss Firestone is not dressed in fancy clothes. I'm just wearing clothes around my house. But fancy clothes, if I went over to my wardrobe, this is where Miss Firestone keeps her clothes, I could find some clothes that are fancy. So some clothes that might be more fancy than what I'm wearing right now, you could wear a skirt. A skirt is more fancy than the shirt that I'm wearing right now. I could also wear a dress. A dress would be more fancy than what I'm wearing right now? Let's see. I have a question for you. Do you think that this is fancy? It's a dress, and it's not quite as fancy as some things that people wear. Miss Firestone isn't a very fancy person, but oftentimes when you are going to a fancy party, you might wear makeup on your face if you're a girl. You might wear jewelry like earrings and necklaces to get all dressed up. You would be fancy. All right, so coming back to the story now that we've clarified the word fancy, I want to see if Piggy and Gerald need to dress up in some different clothes so that they can be fancy too. Gerald is looking very serious. He says, "We must be ready." And Piggy says, "Really?" So she's not sure if Gerald's idea is a little bit too much. And then Gerald gets in her personal space. He's getting really close. His eyes are next to Piggy's eyes. And he tells her, "I know parties." And then Piggy tells us, she's looking at the reader, which is you and me, and she says, "He knows parties." And Gerald, he feels pretty confident that he really does know parties and he knows what he's doing. Let's see if he's right. So he goes, "Zip!" And she goes, "Zap!" They're both leaving the page. So I wonder what they're going to come back wearing. So in our last story we read, Piggy dressed up as a cowboy, as a clown, and as a robot. I wonder what she'll be wearing when she's trying to be fancy. Here we go. We've got Gerald. Gerald is wearing a top hat. He is wearing a tuxedo with a bow tie. And it also looks like he has a walking stick or a walking cane. And so he says, "Zap!" And she says, "Zip!" And now Piggy is wearing a dress. And she's also wearing gloves. And these aren't the kind of gloves that you would wear when you're going outside and playing in the snow. These are very fancy gloves. They go all the way up to her elbows, and you wear them as part of dinner wear. So something that you would wear at night if you were going to a special party. And she's also carrying a purse with her. So, and it's a very pretty purse. And so, oh, and I didn't notice this, but on this page, do you see what she has on her ears? It's a little bit easier to see here. Piggy is wearing earrings. She says, "Is this fancy?" So Piggy, she's asking a clarifying question. She wants to make sure that she followed Gerald's direction and is wearing fancy clothing. And Gerald says, "Very fancy." And I want to show you the font. So the font is the way the words are written. And so in this one, these words are just ordinary letters. But this, the letters are fancy, just like the word fancy. Very fancy. And now they're dancing again because they feel pretty good. They're all dressed up in the clothing that they should wear. And he says, "Party! Party! Party! Party!" So they're having a good time. They're wearing their fancy clothing. It looks like even Gerald's tail is getting a little wiggly out. And then, do you think they're all done? There's quite a few more pages in the book, so I think that Gerald, my prediction is that Gerald might have another idea of what they should do. Let's see. He says, "Wait! What if it is a pool party?" So I want you to think, what is the word pool? Where do you think the setting of the party would be if it's at a pool? I think that might involve some water because the kind of pools that I know are swimming pools. Now, question, if you were dressed up in a fancy dress, would you go to a swimming pool? That's not what I normally wear to pools. Normally I would wear like a swimsuit or like a sundress, but I wouldn't wear a fancy dress with earrings and my purse. So let's see what they do next. And Piggy's a little bit skeptical, and we talked about that word earlier. So I mean, she doesn't think that that's right. She says a fancy pool party? Like, who's heard of that before? And Gerald says, we must be ready. And he's saying it in all capital letters, so you know that he thinks it's really important. And instead of just one exclamation point, there's 1, 2, 3. So we know that Gerald is saying that really loudly. Okay. And Gerald tells her, I know parties. And then Piggy says, he knows parties. I guess he's right. And so, zip, Gerald leaves. Zap, Piggy leaves. And I want you to think in your head, make a prediction of what you would take if you were going to the pool. I gave you some ideas. I talked about that I would wear my swimming suit. I might also want to take a bath towel because after I get in the water, you get wet. And I don't like to get out of the pool and feel wet, so I'd always want to have a towel so I could dry off. But I want you to think, what other things might you take to a swimming pool party? Okay. And then we'll see if some of the things that you would take are the things that Gerald and Piggy decide to take. All right. Oh my goodness. So Gerald is still wearing his top hat and his tuxedo, but now he's wearing swimming trunks. So he's got his swimsuit on, and he's also wearing an inflatable circle so that he can kind of float in the water. And Piggy is still wearing her dress, but she's also wearing special kind of shoes. These are called flippers, and you wear them if you are going scuba diving because they make your body a little bit more like fish flippers so that you can move through the water. And she's also wearing a mask with a tube. This is so that she could snorkel. And I don't know if you know what snorkeling means, so I think let's pause and clarify what snorkeling is. But snorkeling is if you have your face, so let's pretend the water is up here, and I'm wearing those special kinds of glasses, and then I have a thing that's connected to my mouth, and it goes all the way up over the water so I can get the air from above the water down into my mouth so that I can still breathe. So here she is with her snorkel, and this is the part that will go in her mouth, and then this is the part that will go up in the air so that she can still breathe. And she also has some arm flotation devices so that she can float in the water, and she still has her purse with her too. Let's see. So Piggy and Gerald, I want you to look at their clothing. I think that instead of looking fancy, they look a little bit silly. And so Piggy asks her friend, how is this? And Gerald says, we will make a splash. And now, I wonder if you could predict this. Every time they've come back with their new clothing, they have sang and danced. So they're saying, party, 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 party. Having a good time. Uh-oh. What has Gerald said every single time after they get dressed? He yells this word. He says, wait! What if it is a costume party? So first, he thought it was going to be a fancy party. Second, he thought it was going to be a pool party. And now he thinks it's going to be a costume party. So that's 1, 2, 3 kinds of parties that Gerald thinks it's going to be. And his friend Piggy, she feels skeptical. That means she doesn't necessarily think that Gerald is right. And she says, look at her face. Her eyes are kind of slit so that they're kind of closed, and she just says, a fancy pool costume party? Like, what? That make sense. That doesn't make sense at all. Who has ever heard of a fancy pool costume party? But Gerald does not listen. He yells, "We must be ready!" So he goes, zip. And Piggy goes, zap. And she tells us he had better know parties because she thinks that this is kind of ridiculous. So she was pretty excited to get that card at the beginning of the story to be invited to this party. But the more things that Gerald is having her do to get ready, the more she's starting to wonder if this party is a good idea. So now, this page is really funny. So we've got Gerald. He still has on his tuxedo with his bow tie. He still has his top hat. He still has his swimming trunks with his flotation device. But now he is also wearing boots and a cape like a superhero. And he's wearing a mask to conceal his identity. So a lot of superheroes, they wear a mask so that you can't tell who they are. And now, here comes Piggy. And Piggy, we've seen her dressed like this before. It looks like she is wearing a cowboy hat. She's pretending to be a cowboy. And she still has on her fancy dress, her fancy earrings, and she still has on her flippers for swimming, and her arm flotation devices, and her purse. So let's see. Every single time that they've come from the party, they've gotten dressed for the party, Gerald says, wait. So I'm curious. I'm making a prediction that he might have another idea for Piggy to wear something extra. Let's see if I'm right. So Piggy has that same clarifying question too. She says, now can we go to the party? She doesn't want to have to wear any more silly clothing. And Gerald says, yes, now we are ready. So he's got his cape on, he's got his mask on, and his top hat. He's ready to go to the party. So Piggy, she's feeling a little bit anxious because I don't know about you, but I wouldn't wear my best dress with swimming flippers and a cowboy hat. I think that is silly. That makes me in the yellow zone. It makes me a little bit like hyper and silly, and it's just like, that's ridiculous. So then Piggy says, well, that is a surprise because they're going to the party, and often when you go to a party, there are signs telling you which direction to go. And she tells Gerald, you do know parties because at this party, everyone is dressed up in fancy clothing and in their swimming outfit and in a costume. So I'm going to come in a little bit closer so you can see, but they're saying party, party, party. And so the duck that helped her with flying, he is wearing a helmet and a mustache. And he's also wearing a necktie and swimming flotation devices on his arms. The bear, she's dressed in a beautiful purple dress with a pink ribbon and a bow on the back. Like Piggy, she is wearing fancy evening gown gloves. She is wearing a crown and a wig, and she's carrying a star wand. And then we have the bulldog that helped scare Piggy in Today I Will Fly. And the bulldog, instead of chasing Piggy, he is dressed in swimming trunks that have bones on them because dogs like to chew bones. And he also has a really big surfboard, and he's dressed up like a pirate. So he's wearing a hook on his arm, and even the mouse, his friend, is getting in there, and the little mouse says, party. So that was the kind of party that Piggy and Gerald went to. And I wonder if you could tell me what kind of party you would like to go to. You could think of any kind of party that you would like. Piggy and Gerald, they go to a party that first is fancy, second is at a pool, and third is a costume party. So their party had 1, 2, 3 things that they had to do to get ready. normally for my parties, there's only one thing to do to get ready. So if you'd like to drop me a comment in Class Dojo or on YouTube, I would love that. Thanks, you guys. Bye.